Hello, Bl'Artagnan here, bringing you a hipster run of Defined Brothers Lufenia. We don't have a TCC challenge for this, so I decided to do something a little bit similar in spirit. We have no synergy and none of the 6 most popular characters per DFFOO.com. So that means no Cloud of Darkness, no Gabranth. It also means no Emperor, no Garland, no Cypher, no Tifa. So, getting into this, we have a team of Jack, Lightning, and Y'shtola. Oh yes, before we begin, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It does help the channel grow quite a bit, and I really appreciate it. Also leave a comment down below sharing any interesting teams you've tried or have seen work in this fight. I'm curious to hear what you've observed. I also want to give a big shout out to Type Zoey, who helped me kind of craft this team after a bunch of struggling and kind of beating our heads against the wall. I'm going to link her channel in the description because she puts out some pretty spectacular DFFOO content in terms of gameplay and commentary. And also going to mention that you can catch us both every Monday night at 8:30 Eastern Time on Raw Life's Twitch channel, which I'll also link in the description. We'll be discussing DFFOO, doing some gameplay, and generally having a good time. Who knows, there may even be some non-DFFOO content if that's not really your thing. But if it isn't, I'm not really sure what you're doing here. So needless to say, Lightning is quite good here in terms of playing, her keep-away playstyle in a fight that's very much about keeping the bosses off you. Y'shtola is also pretty darn good because she delays, and she actually, because they absorb Earth, can do some cheeky rebreaking things alongside Lightning and Jack. Jack himself was surprisingly good here as well. He of course brings his spectacular LD debuff that we all know and love, but his turn stalling, thanks to his turn jumping, actually comes quite clutch at a couple of different points. The nice thing about having him in the main party as well is that it means we can run the other kind of 3 premium debuff calls, being Gabranth, Kurasame, and Faris, and still have access to Jack's debuff. Handy thing I appreciate is that Faris' call includes a Thunder Imperil, so Lightning doesn't need to worry about her debuff being pushed off. You can see right here what I was talking about. We see that A really wants to hit us with that recast, and we don't really want that to happen. And so we're going to kind of just stall him out with Jack. We can really be free with his skills during this phase because he's going to get swapped out for Cloud of Darkness anyway, so I'm not really worried about him running out of skills. Go ahead and using Y'shtola's LD for a nice rebreak there. Trying to push these guys below 80%. It's kind of heartening to think about how looking back, Lightning's more than 8 months old at this point, if I remember right. She came out late November, early December of last year, and she's still putting in good work. Jack and Y'shtola also not the newest characters, so I'm pretty pleased with how they've worked out. That was a bit of a brain fart on my part there. I meant to target B, but actually targeted A, so Jack jumped behind A, and B was able to get his turn off, pulling up A. We get the recast. Luckily, Y'shtola is a healer, so we don't actually care. Combined with the fact that Jack was able to just dodge the attack, and so we ended up not taking that much damage. So, RIP 0 boss turn run. Won't be able to put that in the thumbnail. So at this point, I'm trying to kind of maximize Lightning's not skill usage, but longevity here, because my previous run she ended up running just a little bit dry, so I was hoping to basically save as much as I could for the next phase, because we won't really be racing the turn count here, although it does get a little bit high. We're racing the orb, unsurprisingly, because we're bringing 2 delayers here, one of whom doesn't delay every turn. We of course have Cloud of Darkness friend to help us through a lot of that, but being able to kind of really cut loose once Cloud of Darkness is gone and dump everything we have into killing the combined brothers is really going to be pretty important here. Meantime, as for these guys, we are now only about 15% combined health that we need to get through in order to get to that next phase. But yeah, in terms of these guys all sticking around and continuing to do good work despite their age, like, I mean, Lightning, I know everyone was saying, oh, you can pull for her and she's going to last you for 8 months, and I thought that was a little bit extreme, but dang, she just refuses to die. I mean, I know we're all kind of underwhelmed by her C90 and Burst Plus in Japan right now, but she's had a darn good run. I can't really fault her for wanting to take a break. Trying to use all of Y'shtola's LDs here because obviously the 100% split damage is really good, pushes them back. We're not going to benefit from rebreaks in the next phase of the fight, beyond just pushing the boss back a little, and by the time we get to that phase of the fight, as you're going to see, we're not really going to be in a position where we're worried about the boss actually taking a turn. So we might as well get that maximum benefit out of those LDs here. Trying really hard to get them both underneath that 70% threshold. We got one down. Oh no, we don't have one down. This is gonna be close. We can go ahead and force B below, just to make absolutely sure. I'm pretty sure A is already very close from what we've done elsewhere, and just barely get it. Oof, that's close. Now, the next phase. Go ahead and break him with Faris. And we begin the process of delaying this guy into oblivion. The orb, the most dangerous part of this part of the fight is this early orb, because it starts at 8 out of 15, and we're going to be relying on Cloud of Darkness to reset that with its zero wave, whatever particle beam thing. We got the Karasame call now. We're also trying to set up our damage, though. That's the other thing. So we're going to go ahead and actually drop the LD from Jack now, because we want to drop the Gabranth call, but I don't know if you're counting. If we drop the Gabranth call, we actually would not have room for Jack's call now that we have dropped Kurasame's on there. So we have to make sure Gabranth's on there last so that his useless Max Brave down debuff is the thing that is getting pushed off, as opposed to anything else. Saving a random turn there. Getting a little bit nervous about the how the turn count's shaking out. Or not turn count, the orb count. Using a basic move so that we don't jump ahead. And we are down to 2, so it's time. Bringing in Cloud of Darkness. This is actually Drusain's Cloud of Darkness once again. I'll link his channel in the description as well. Drusain, a friend of the TCC podcast, a frequent guest host, and all-around good fella. Fellow with much deeper thoughts about the game than I usually have, so go check him out. We're actually hopping into the summon right now because, as you saw, the orb got down to 1 and I was not prepared to deal with it. Go ahead and let Lightning refresh her LD, which is handy because it also gives us a bunch of free shots. The thing I kind of figured out about playing Lightning alongside Cloud of Darkness in this fight is you want to really be careful about when you EX and when you use her LD, so that basically you want to pop it right before the boss would naturally unbreak in order to minimize the number of breaks that your friend Cloud of Darkness ends up taking. Yes, Particle Beam. I'll just be spamming Sion's Arrow with Y'shtola now to get more follow-up attacks. So once again, rebreaking. Now I make a small, I don't want to say error, but I think I make a decision here that I, in hindsight, don't agree with. Because you're going to see I use the EX now, so that I could get a free Flourish of Steel, which obviously doesn't, or no, to get a plus version of the EX for more delay. This means that the boss has 1 extra turn to come out of rebreak now because I'm attacking here. I think it would have been better in hindsight to use the Flourish of Steel first, and then rebreak to, basically, you'll see how the boss's Brave recovers in certain ways. This is the kind of really nitty-gritty things that you don't need to worry about when you're actually running, when you're not doing a hipster run, when you're running any character you want to run. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, in fact, I guess what I'm saying is that kind of minutia may not be necessary, may not actually be helpful for you, but I figured I'd mention it in case you want to do weird, wacky stuff yourself. So yeah, we see Cloud of Darkness ended up getting a break there because I miscounted how things shook out. So we're going to use an LD to push it back again, deal as much damage as possible during that free turn that wouldn't create a whatchamacallit, additional turn for Cloud of Darkness. Recovering use of stone there with the EX. And here we go. So you're seeing here, Cloud of Darkness is basically putting out an extra character's worth of damage every time anyone does an attack, which is spectacular. So we're really just focused on pushing him back, and we're using the last turn to reset the orb. Everything's kind of going swimmingly here. My first attempt at this, actually, I misplayed and let Cloud of Darkness get 2 breaks during the course of its time on the field, and that really just dropped my damage off a cliff, so to speak, because it left and then it wasn't here, and the orb was counting down, and I couldn't reset it. It was a whole mess. So that's something to really keep in mind with Cloud of Darkness Friend, because it's a very hype unit, very powerful friend unit to use, but unlike most friend units, you really need to actually think while it's on the field. Usually when a friend unit comes on the field, that's kind of the unga bunga do whatever you want phase of the fight, which was a different dynamic I had to get used to. So you can see here with Lightning, we're trying to take advantage as much as possible of Cloud of Darkness being on the field. So we used the LD, even though the buff wasn't running out. We're just trying to take as many free turns as we could before it was time for Jack to come back. And now he's here again. And it's back to playing Keepaway. We are not worried about the boss taking a turn once again. I mean, you look, the turns are nowhere. The turns have been sent to Aruba or something. I don't know. Hopefully they're having a very lovely time on the beach. What we're worried about is that orb. Y'shtola is going to do her darndest to keep the orb off us with these stones, but you can only do so much when Lightning keeps jumping turns and stuff. Luckily, she also delays on her EX. Doing a nice, tasty amount of damage there. And you can see we're down to our last Flourish of Steel, so we're trying to be careful about how we time things. Intentionally going for the EX here, even though it counts down the orb just to get an extra use of stone in case we need it. Cockily using an Afflatus Misery there. That kind of works out okay because it leads into a nice little launch. This is probably the most stressful part of the fight, because in the first part with the orb getting low, we had the summon to fall back on. Now there's very little we can do to, beyond just praying and throwing rocks at it. Luckily we get damage whenever we do that from the battery, and Jack can instantly break any amount of damage that or any amount of brave it gains. As you can see, 75 turns. We're doing pretty all right. I'm not worried about the turn count. We're just keeping a close eye on the orb there. And for that reason, we're not going to use a Afflatus Misery there. We are going to use stone just to give us that wiggle room. Gonna hit that Army of 1+, feels good. And with that, it is time to close this out. There you have it, Divine Brothers Hipster run. No synergy, none of the 6 most popular characters used. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you again, Type Zoey, for making this work, and Drusain for your spectacular Cloud of Darkness. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Adios.